Our journey continues here in Jerusalem in search of the Ark of the Covenant. Traditions have placed the Ark in distant locations such as Ethiopia or Ireland. Chris Mitchell spoke with a scholar who suggests that the Ark may be much closer than people imagine. The Ark of the Covenant was a symbol of divine presence among the Israelites, a visual reminder of the covenant made by him with his people. When Babylon sacked Jerusalem in the 6th century BCE, the Ark disappeared, leaving historians puzzled. Christians, scientists, historians, and archaeologists have tirelessly searched for it, but for a long time there was no breakthrough. However, a recent scientific discovery may change everything, providing clues about the location of the Ark of the Covenant according to the Bible. Not everyone has the privilege of touching the Ark of the Covenant, but why can scientists? There is something enigmatic here. I invite you to leave your like, subscribe to the Life channel, and watch until the end of the video to find out. Many scientists claim to have traced the last traces of the Ark of the Covenant to find this sacred object. Ron Wyatt claimed to have discovered the Ark of the Covenant and the Ten Commandments buried under the remnants of the ancient city of Jerusalem. Since the Israelites escaped from Egypt and settled in the Promised Land, the Ark of the Covenant was supposedly kept in the sacred temple, also known as Solomon's Temple. 600 years before the birth of Jesus, the Babylonians invaded and destroyed much of Jerusalem, including the temple where the Ark was believed to be kept. At the moment the Ark of the Covenant disappeared into history, the Babylonians began their attack, erecting an immense siege wall around the city, preventing entry and exit. In response, the Israelites built many tunnels to move around the city without attracting attention. Many of these tunnels still exist today, and ancient artifacts have been discovered in some of them. Before Wyatt argued that the Ark of the Covenant, the most sacred Jewish artifact, was hidden in an underground chamber that was then sealed and forgotten. Besides Ron, there are also many other scientists who claim to have found the Ark, missing for thousands of years. When this sacred vessel was found, everyone eagerly awaited the moment when scientists would open it, to confirm if what is inside matches what is described in the Bible. If scientists were to open the Ark of the Covenant, the first thing they would do is examine it meticulously, even if they have already understood its design through the Bible. At the moment they witnessed the Ark of the Covenant, they would be astonished, as if the pages of a book materialized before their eyes. The Ark was made of pure gold, inside and out, with a gold rim around it. Its lid, called the mercy seat, had 2 golden cherubim statues with their wings spread out, looking at each other and at the mercy seat, considered the holiest part of the Ark. The Ark had 4 gold rings, 2 on each side, into which acacia wood poles covered with gold were inserted to transport it. The carrying poles were to be permanent fixtures and never removed. Once the scientists opened the Ark, we could see what was inside. But before that, let me challenge you with a very simple question to test how much you recall about the Bible. The question is, do you know what the 3 items stored inside the Ark of the Covenant are? Let's go through the options. A. Scroll, coins and jewels. B. Tablets of the 10 Commandments, Aaron's budding rod, and a pot of manna. C. Gold ingots, ceremonial garments, and a crown. D. Sacrificial animals, incense, and oil. Time to think, right? I am sure most of the audience who answered gave the correct response. So let's see how the scientists were surprised by what they found inside. The 3 important artifacts inside the Ark were the 10 Commandments, Aaron's budding rod, and the manna as a container vessel. The Ark carried artifacts that referred to key moments during Israel's time in the desert. The second set of stone tablets represented the law, the standard of justice of the Old Testament. Moses broke the original tablets in Exodus 32, then the Israelites made the golden calf to worship. The manna in the gold bowl represented the life-sustaining food that God gives to his people. When Israel was in the desert, the Lord sustained them with this mysterious bread. Not knowing what it was, they called it manna, which means, what is it? When Jesus fed the 5,000, He said that Moses did not give them the bread from heaven, but that his Father gave them the true bread from heaven. The flesh and blood of Christ are the life-sustaining food for the believer. Aaron's rod was the same rod that God turned into a snake before Pharaoh. However, the most significant moment noted by the writer of Hebrews was the budding and flowering of the rod in Numbers. When the people of Israel began to murmur against the leadership of Moses and Aaron, the Lord brought down a group of rebels to prove Aaron's priesthood and lineage. The Lord commanded the tribes of Israel to set up 12 rods, with Aaron representing the tribe of Levi, appointed by God for the priesthood. During the night, the rods were left outside, and by morning, Aaron's rod had budded and produced flowers, bringing ripe almonds to the Israelites. This rod represented the priesthood lineage, something that caught the scientists' attention. The mercy seat was placed over the ark, and when the priest entered the Holy of Holies, he sprinkled the blood of sacrifice on the mercy seat, representing Jesus' atoning blood. Israel's sin formed a barrier between God and them, just as our sins also separate us from God. To solve this dilemma, Jesus' blood is vital. Just as the blood on the mercy seat, Christ's blood is between God's law and divine presence. When the Lord sees the blood, his wrath is appeased, and the transgressions of God's people are forgiven. Now the Lord no longer perceives us through the lens of the law, but through the gospel. The Ark of the Covenant transcends mere biblical narrative. It is a legendary symbol. Only certain people could handle it or approach it, for it was so sacrosanct that touching it would result in instant death. The Ark of the Covenant was deposited in the sacred chamber of the temple in Jerusalem. Only the high priest was authorized to enter its presence, and that only once a year to cover or uncover it. To move it, one had to be a descendant of Aaron, born in the tribe of Levi. The Levites were designated as the real priests of the covenant, tasked with safeguarding all the sacred objects. Only Coat's descendants could transport or move the sacred artifacts, and only after properly covered. The poles used to move the ark were extraordinary, not just a simple cart. Any improper contact was considered disrespectful, punishable by death. If someone couldn't prove to be a descendant of Aaron or Coat, touching the ark would undoubtedly mean death, as happened with Uzzah. If they didn't belong to these categories, even if they touched the ark for any reason, they wouldn't survive. However, if someone was a descendant of Levi, the situation would be different, or if they were a person chosen by God, the circumstances would be altered. If it was God's will, the events would be completely different. The Ark of the Covenant, as the spiritual connection between God and his people, was lost for a long time. Certainly, God did not want everyone to be able to visualize or touch it, which would cause disorder. He probably selected special individuals to represent his people before the ark, and then report their experiences to their descendants, so they would feel safe and confident in the truth of its return. So, as Scripture teaches, only a Levite could be appointed by God to handle the Ark of the Covenant. When the Israelites were distributed throughout the lands among the 12 tribes, the Levites did not receive territory. Instead, they resided scattered throughout Israel, demonstrating a devoted life. Because they did not own land, they could not cultivate and depended on the support of other Israelites, who contributed 10% of their produce to the Levites, following the tithe system. Currently, about 4% of Jews have Levitical ancestry. Once a year, on the Day of Atonement, the high priest entered the Holy of Holies in the tabernacle and later in the temple and sprinkled blood on the top of the Ark of the Covenant, called the mercy seat. This act symbolized that the blood activated God's mercy, surpassing judgment, as mentioned in James 2:13. For judgment is without mercy to the one who has shown no mercy. Mercy triumphs over judgment. The ark was so sacred that no one could handle it. God commanded in Exodus 25:14 that it be carried on poles only by the Levites, who were the priests. There were rings beside the ark, and the priests slid the poles through these rings to carry it. If anyone touched it, they would face death. as mentioned in 2 Samuel. The Levites were responsible for carrying the ark using 2 wooden poles inserted through the rings on its sides, as touching the ark itself would result in death by the hand of God. The Levite Uzzah touched the ark with his hand to stabilize it, and God instantly killed him. In addition to the information that scientists found the Ark of the Covenant, there are many theories surrounding it. A persistent theory posits that the Ark of the Covenant was kept in the Church of St. Mary of Zion in Aksum, Ethiopia. According to this theory, Menelik brought the Ark to Ethiopia during his visit to Solomon in Jerusalem. Tradition states that the Ark remains hidden in a chapel within the church, guarded by a line of priests. Support for this theory is largely grounded in Ethiopian history, traditions, and religious practices. Each Ethiopian church possesses a replica of the Ark, known as a tabo, and the lineage of the Ethiopian emperor has been associated with Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. However, the lack of external confirmation makes it challenging to corroborate the authenticity of this claim. The Copper Scroll, a unique document among the Dead Sea Scrolls, lists 64 locations where gold and silver objects, likely from the Temple of Jerusalem, were buried or hidden. An intriguing aspect of the Copper Scroll is its suggestion that the Ark of the Covenant may be hidden near the Dead Sea, possibly in the vicinity of Qumran, where the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered. The Copper Scroll implies the presence of the Ark, but does not provide precise coordinates for its final resting place. There have been reports of something strange preventing taking photographs or videos of it. He reported that upon returning to the site to collect more evidence, 4 angels stood before him and said it was not time for the world to see this discovery with their own eyes. Perhaps the time for that is approaching, but until then, any testimony or contact with this Ark must be guided by divine approval. Going back a bit in time, the last mention of the Ark in the Old Testament is in 2 Chronicles 5, when Solomon completed the construction of the temple and brought the Ark into the Holy of Holies. When Menelik returned to Jerusalem as an adult, although Menelik decided to return to his mother, Solomon sent with him a company of Jews without the knowledge of both. These companions, unhappy to leave Jerusalem, chose to take a kind of memento of the Ark of the Covenant. It was too late for Solomon to reclaim the sacred artifact. Menelik brought the Ark with him to the city of Aum. With the Ark by his side, he later became the conqueror of the Lion. The constitutions of 1931 and 1955, along with the Ethiopian government, recognized this connection. The country's main religious denomination, the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church, considers the Kebra Nagast to be an authentic Christian narrative. The Ark of the Covenant has been closely guarded in Aksum, at the Church of St. Mary of Zion. Not even the high priest of Aksum can enter its resting chamber. Only a single guardian claims ownership of the church, but this claim is not verifiable. Most historians believe that if it existed, the relic of over 3,000 years has deteriorated over time or was destroyed. But this too is only speculation. For many, the final fate of the Ark remains a fascinating and possibly unsolvable mystery. The symbolism of the Ark reaches its climax on the Day of Atonement. When the blood of the sacrifice was sprinkled on the mercy seat, the glory of God manifested. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more videos.